All right. The Auburn Tigers add another defensive player. We talk about what that means on this live edition of Locked On Auburn.
Well, Zach, I actually just finished crushing some chicken farm, and I am freaking ready to rock and roll.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello. Welcome on into a live edition of Locked On Auburn. And we are going live because Auburn just added another transfer target, and I already put up tomorrow's show. So obviously I did not mention the newest edition, Morris Joseph. And if you're new to the show, my name is Zach Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Really appreciate it. And for the live chat, folks, let me know what you think about the addition of Morris Joseph Jr. from Memphis. He's a defensive tackle with a ton of experience, and that's kind of about all that we know when we look at this guy, because you look at his track record and kind of his resume. He's been playing college football for a little bit. In 2021, according to Memphis, he was a senior. So this looks like a grad transfer type move. Doesn't have a whole lot of eligibility left. And this is the kind of thing where we thought that, okay, maybe they're going to add pieces that could possibly provide depth in 2022 and then provide upside for 2023 and 2024. That's what I thought the route of what this offseason would look like. And for the most part, I think that's what it has looked like, but that's not what this move is. And so in 2017, it looks like he was at UTSA, and then he transferred to played at community college, Iowa Western, played there in 2018, had a really good year, and then that earned him an offer to go to Memphis. He played in all 14 games as a sophomore at Memphis, which you have to love that. And then in 2020, he played in all 11 games there. And in 2021, last year, you started to see him get more and more starts, which makes sense. And last year was his best year. He had 38 total tackles. So, but still, like with big interior defensive linemen like Morris is, well, he's listed at 6'2", 275. Stats don't really matter. So that's something to keep in mind. Glenn Ireland asks, is he more of a 3 technique? I think that's a reasonable assumption, Glenn. 6'2", 275. That's still probably a pretty big 3 technique. The addition is interesting to me because I don't see where he fits. Like, I don't know if we really needed this for 2022. You definitely need more of it, but I just think I think it's great for Auburn. I'm confused why he chose Auburn. Chris James, this guy feels like Tony Fair. That's a good thing. Yeah, that's a great situation. The interesting thing here, though, is when Tony Fair came in, there wasn't a Jason Jones that had just moved here, or a Marquise Burks who was on his last year of eligibility. And so that to me is the difference here. AJ says, Auburn's defensive line has been so strong historically. Take all the depth in that we can get. No, I'm right there. I'm right there with you. Robert Smith, is this guy better than Tony Fair? I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it's a similar situation. The difference between him and Tony Fair is probably going to be his first step, but I'm not going to act like I've watched tape on this guy, and I've watched tape and studied Memphis defensive line play. But just the fit, it's the fit that I think is interesting. And as far as the timing of it all, I thought the transfer portal during the summer would be filled with guys that could help you in the future. And this guy cannot help you in the future because he's going to be out of eligibility. And so that's the big question is, okay, what was sold to this guy? Because I believe the coaching staff is telling him the truth. They had to have pitched him, okay, you're going to play and you're going to contribute and you're going to help us become, a better defensive line as a unit with you coming here. And so I'm just curious to see what that looks like. Let me know your thoughts. Give me some takes about this guy. What do we know? What do we like about him already? Zay asks, is this guy better than Jason Jones? I doubt it. And I think the timing of when guys enter the portal and when guys commit matters. I have a very, very high opinion of Jason Jones. That's part of why I think this is a little interesting. Let's see. Zach, in your opinion, do we need anybody else on defense? James, I don't know. I think you probably need more guys that can play in the middle of the field at the linebacker position and at the safety position. We saw them shore up a little bit of it with Craig McDonald, but they're still going after linebackers. In fact, I was halfway through writing an article at auburndaily.com about a James Madison linebacker who was an FCS All-American last year that Auburn had offered. Everybody's offering him, and he's tweeting about it a ton. So, he's doing a good job marketing himself, but Auburn's still looking at linebackers. So I think you always need more on defense, and Auburn has so many scholarships to give. Like, why not? But if I had to pick between like a trench guy on defense or a trench guy on offense, I think we all agree with it. We would want offensive linemen, or wide receivers, right? So who are we looking at for edge? I'm not sure. Guys, I really want to make this about Morris Joseph Jr. I kind of want to go through all of this together and just kind of see what all we can learn about this together. But I think it's important because the fact that he's a grad transfer tells me that this coaching staff really believes in him for 2022. And we've just kind of been told that, okay, there's not a whole lot of dudes left in the portal. So I think this is a good thing. I really do. Let's look at Pro Football Focus. Let's look at what the analytics have to say about this guy, because I think there's going to be some value there. It's also going to be able to show us where all he lined up. So let me pull this up and then I will share this with you guys. Let's see. Memphis. All right. I've never shared my screen on a live before, but let's try it out. Let's see what we do here. Share screen. Just kidding. It's not going to let me. Dadgummit. Maybe it will. Y'all are judging me, and I feel it. I absolutely feel the judgment. That's okay. All right, we can do it. I'll just read it to you guys. So looking at the defensive grades for Memphis last year. Wow, he was their 6th overall defensive player last year. He scored a 71.4. That's outstanding. He played 575 total tackles last year. He rushed the passer 296 times, which is pretty high. That's a pretty high clip. So his defensive rating was 71.4. His rush defense rating was 74.1. His tackle rating was 66.8. That's not good. His pass rush rating was 60.5. That's not good. And he actually has a coverage rating because he technically was in coverage on 2 snaps. So that's hilarious. That's absolutely hilarious. So that's pretty good, guys. That's pretty good. Do you know, let's see, Russell asked, do you know his defensive grading from the last couple seasons? All right, so last year, it was a 71.4 in 2021, which is really good. That was 6th best on Memphis's defense. I think that would make him a top 10 defender for Auburn last year too, if he had that same number. Guys, get this. In 2020, he had the 3rd highest defensive rating. In 2020, he had an 80.8 defensive grade. That's outstanding. He played 605 total snaps in 2020. He had a rush defense grade of 81.5. That's tremendous. Had a tackling grade of 80.3, significantly higher than last year's tackle grade. That's really encouraging. He had a pass rush grade of 72.4. That is fantastic. All right, let's go back to 2019, and then I think that'll be it. Dropped a little bit in 2019, 69.4. So still nice, but that 2020 season was spectacular. Maybe not statistically, but as far as impact on the field, like, you have to love that. All right, so whose snaps is he taking? That's an interesting question. And you guys let me know what you think in the chat. Whose snaps is he taking? Does this hurt Jason Jones? Does this hurt Marquise Burks? I don't think he can go much wider than that. I don't think it's going to impact Marcus Harris, right? Can he be that frame and impact Marcus Harris's role as a 3 technique? Is this guy going to be anywhere outside of a guard defensively as far as alignment goes? Yeah, a lot of comparisons to Tony Fair here in the chat, and I get it. I totally think that makes sense. What does this move do to Marcus Harris? That's interesting, because that's even more interesting because the guys that we've mentioned, with the exception of Marquise Burks, all of these guys that we've talked about are Harsin guys. It's not like he's bringing in folks to replace, the previous regime's guys, which I totally get the argument for doing that. But that's not what's happening here, especially if he's going to impact Marcus Harris's potential snaps. And we don't know that he's going to do that, but it is fun to speculate. SL Hauser says, sounds like a great add to the defense. Woohoo. Yes. I mean, Pro Football Focus numbers, analytics are not everything, but that's a good, that was a really pleasant surprise. That was an outstanding and very pleasant surprise. Chris says could be rotational based on down and distance. Yeah. So like maybe he goes in on first and second down. What does that rotation look like? And that's exactly what I've said about Jason Jones so far this offseason, was what does the rotation look like at interior defensive line with Jason Jones? Can Jason Jones rush the passer on 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 8? Because you want those dudes that, okay, they still could run on the 3rd and 5. Can Jason Jones defend the run and defend the pass as far as the pass rush goes? I think so. But hey, maybe this guy's a better fit at that. What do y'all think? Joseph was listed as a first team preseason all conference DN, not D tackle. There you go. And just looking at the pass rushing numbers, like, they're okay. They're not great. Looking at last year's pass rushing stuff, he had 17 pressures last year, 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 10 quarterback hurries, 26 tackles, 10 assists, 5 missed tackles. So he missed tackles a little over 12% of the time. For 270 plus, though, you take that, I think. I definitely think you take that from a pass rushing standpoint. This is a good question, Jamie. So for folks that did not hear today's show, Mike G of the Warpor was with me, and we ranked our players because at the time Auburn had 7 players coming in. And I'm trying to think. We did it based off of impact. And Jamie, I'm just shooting from the hip here. I haven't had a ton of time to really think about this. But my gut says that he would probably be right after Jason Jones. And I think, I got it right here. I think I had Jason Jones at 4. Let me look. I had Jason Jones at 4. So my current list from 1 to 7 was Craig McDonald, Zach Calzada, DJ James, Jason Jones at 4, Eugene Asante at 5, Robbie Ashford at 6, and DeZalen Worsham at 7. And so he'd probably be at 5. I think I'd have him at 5. What do y'all think? Where would y'all put him from 1 to 8? 1 being the most impactful, 8 being the least impactful. You don't think they'll make a splash or any sort of way on the roster. Where would you rank Morris Joseph? Eli asks, aren't we already stacked the D-line? Yeah, that's kind of what's interesting. And I think it's great for folks just joining in. I think this is a great move for Auburn. I question the move for Morris Joseph. And that's why I'm like, okay, Jimmy Brumbaugh, Auburn's defensive line coach, what did he pitch? What was his sales pitch to get a guy like this to come in and say, okay, you don't have a lot of eligibility left. This is it. This is it for you. Very similar to Tony Fair a year ago, getting him from UAB. I'd love to know what the sales pitch was, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him, unless he was promised the world, right? Unless he was promised okay, you're going to play a ton of snaps. But just look at what he did at Memphis. Last year, he played 575 snaps. I don't think he plays 500 snaps next year. I don't think. Yeah, Glenn says you can never have too many D linemen. That is true. That is true. Russell says this move puts even more fire under Marcus Harris, driving him to an even better season than he was already set to have. We got some dudes on the D-line. You're right, Russell. You were absolutely right. And look, I think Marcus Harris is ready for an incredible season. I do wonder if his role now becomes more of a pass rush situation. But even then, when Auburn goes base, you'll have your defensive tackle. So whether it's Jason Jones or Marquise Burks or, whatever big man you want to have, they've got different options there. And then you're probably going to have, I don't know. The interesting thing is you can put Colby Wooden anywhere. You can put Colby Wooden at the 3. You can put him at defensive end. You could stand him up on the edge if you needed him to, if you needed to do that. I don't think with his roster you really need to do that because of Eku Leota and Derek Hall, but still a fun conversation to have. Chris, if he's a grad transfer, he's going to have to be, I lost your comment. He's going to have to be on the higher end of impact. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, he knows, right? I mean, if you're doing this, you're betting on yourself, which is totally what Brian Harsin wants, right? I mean, Brian Harsin, he's all about, come in and earn it. Can you come in and take it? Because if you can, there's something really special on the other side for you. And so I think it fits what Auburn wants to do, which is exciting. So still a lot of comparisons to Tony Fair. And I think the situation is similar. But some of you are saying he was listed as a defensive end. And if that's the case, it's not the same thing. Let's see if I can let's see if we can figure out where he lined up. First things first, his best game of the season last year, according to Pro Football Focus. How funny, get this. His best game last year was against UCF. How about that, Gus Malzahn? Yeah, he had a defensive rating of 76.4. And he only had one pressure. He only had 3 tackles, but that just tells you that he's impacting the game, which I would much rather have anyway. So that is huge. I'm trying to find snaps by position. Here we go. Okay, so he was. It looked like he was all interior. Okay. All right. So of the 574 snaps last year, 181 were at left end. So this guy moves around. Defensive right tackle, 89. Defensive left tackle, 72. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, he is a 3 technique / probably like a 3-4 defensive end. I think it's kind of what we're looking at, guys. So this is not Tony Fair. This is not a Tony Fair type thing. It may be similar in situation because they're coming in with 1 year of left of eligibility. This is kind of your last shot. You've been a little bit of a journeyman. I guess he's technically been at 4 schools now. UTSA. What was the community college he went to? Western Community College, and then Memphis, and then Auburn. So like journeyman, much like Tony Fair was, but there's different. There's a different role here, which is great. I think that's more needed. Now it kind of makes you wonder because Auburn's thin at edge, and I think that's a concern. And this guy's not an edge; it doesn't look like it, but maybe it allows you to scoot some guys out if you need to. So I like this a lot. I like this a ton. Let's see. I think Owen Papa will do. I think Owen's going to be great. I think Owen's going to be great. Oh, Russell, I think you just said what I just said. Let's see. Russell says, since we couldn't wrangle, there's 100 of you in here. That's wild. Russell says, since we couldn't wrangle an edge, coaches may be planning to plug and pressure the middle with bigger defensive linemen, emphasizing more linebacker DB blitzes to enable D Hall and Eku total unit Leota to be fresh in the fourth. Maybe. I also think that certainly could be true, Russell. I don't love blitzing DBs. That's just a philosophy thing. But I do wonder. I think a lot of this is we're slowly seeing Harson's what he wants in players. And I think he really wants versatility. I think he wants guys that can do more than one thing. So the more I look at this guy's numbers, I wanted to be quick and go live as quick as possible before I could really look at this and we can kind of work through this together. But this makes more and more sense the more I look at it. Oh, wow. This is a take. Wizard of Woz. If he stays healthy, he'll be a day 2 pick. How do you know that? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. That's great. I hope so. I don't know about that one. Maybe. Oh, you were talking about Owen. Okay. I agree. If Owen stays healthy, he could be a first rounder. He's got good traits. So, all right, let me know, where would you guys rank the addition of Morris Joseph from 1 to 8? 1 being Zach Calzada, probably the most valuable transfer coming in. 8 being a guy that you do not believe will play at Auburn. Where do you rank his impact just for 2022? Not for beyond that, just for 2022. Because that's the only way we can really grade Morris Joseph. So we need to kind of be even when we say all this. 3 or 4? 3, 4, 3, 5. You guys are high on him. 5. I think I said 5. As a few 5s come in. Jamie with another 4. 4 because he's taking snaps from Jason Jones. Jamie, even after we read that he took 180 snaps at left defensive end last year, you still think it impacts Jason Jones that much? 7 seems too low. 4, I was thinking 5. Position of need, so it drives it up to a 3. I get that. Okay, so you guys are high on him. You guys are really high on him. I still like the addition of Jason Jones more. I think it's close, but I like it a little bit more. And my mind may change the more I look at this guy. Paul Ryan says he's 2, the second highest. Who's ahead of him? Just curious. Is it Calzada, or do you think somebody else has more value in 2022 as a transfer than him? Just curious. 3/4. Okay, so a lot of you guys are high on this guy, which is outstanding. That is outstanding. He did some special team stuff as well. He was on punt return, which makes sense. He actually wasn't on there as much as I would have thought, but he could play special teams, so that's good. Okay. Yeah, you had Calzada first. That makes sense. Eugene Asante is 2 or 3. Okay. All right. This is fun. We got opinions all over the place. An absolute unit, some might say. Yeah, for sure. All right. So a bunch of new folks have come in, and I just want to rehash who this guy is. So Morris Joseph committed to Auburn earlier tonight. He is an Orange, Texas native, and he went to UTSA out of high school. He quickly transferred to Western Community College, and after a pretty impressive season there, he had 35 tackles at the community college level, which is awesome. 7 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, also had a block. He went to Memphis, and his playing time gradually increased over time, which is a good sign. That's exactly what you want to see. And then in 2021, it kind of culminated into, okay, he had a really good season and extremely versatile. No, guys, punt return in regards to like he was on the field for a punt return. He did not return a punt. I'm sorry. I should have said that differently. I'm sorry. That's hilarious. Eli asks, shouldn't we go after younger offensive linemen for 2023? Yes. You're the TikTok stud, right? You're that Eli, right? We need to get together, man. We keep DMing back and forth. We need to pull the trigger on that, man. Yeah, that's what I've been saying on my podcast every day. And so every time, Trevon Reed and this coaching staff, drops the eyes that like, something's coming. It's like, is it an offensive lineman? And you don't need guys that have played a lot. You literally just need bodies that have upside. Former 3-stars that maybe redshirted their freshman year, didn't win a starting job their second year, and they were just kind of pieces on the depth chart. That's what I thought Auburn would be going for with offensive linemen, with defensive linemen, and that's what I thought this move was when I saw, the tweet from Morris Joseph saying business trip committed, and it's a picture of his family and Brian Harsin and the coaching staff. I thought this would be a redshirt sophomore type dude that can give you depth in 2022. And then beyond that could potentially be a starter because Auburn's going to lose essentially their whole defensive line and their whole offensive line after this season. So it's like, get a guy that can kind of help you in practice and provide depth and some insurance and get him in the system. So next year when it's their time to shine, and what an easy sales pitch too, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? Because they're already not playing where they are because maybe a new coaching staff took over or, a guy that's in the same class as them beat him out. And so then you can promise them, here is a path to playing time. And then, but that just hasn't really been what we've seen so far, except for DeZalen Worsham. That's really the only transfer where we've seen that. So, let's see what else you guys got going on. Yes, hit the like button. Thank you, Antonio. Appreciate that. Does he have an extra COVID year after 22? Let's look. All right. So he played in 18. He played in 19, played in 20, played in 21. So I'm looking at Memphis's website, and in 18, it says transferred to Iowa Western Community College from UTSA. So I don't really know. I don't really understand that. Like, did he play in 2017 at UTSA and they just didn't put it on the website? Because if that's the case, with a COVID year, you have 6 years to play 5. And this would be his 5th year, right, of playing, because he played in 18, 19, 20, 21, and he'll play in 2022. So I think this is his COVID year, actually. I think. It's birthday September 1st, if y'all care. If anybody wants to get him anything now with NIL, that's possible. Cool. No, I think this is a good move, guys. I think this is a good move. So just to kind of go through where he played on defense. Lining up in front of the defensive left tackle. Let's see, defensive left tackle 72. In front of the right tackle, he played 89 snaps there last year. At left end, which I believe that's classified the outside shoulder of the tackle, he played 181. He played more there than anywhere else, and then his second most was at right end. So this is more of a defensive end than a defensive tackle. Do we still think that impacts Marcus Harris, guys? Or is this Colby Wooden's backup? Like, what do we just get here? Or does this allow you to only put one edge on the field at the time? You know, is this the guy that plays opposite of Derek Hall and Equiliota so they're not on the field all at the same time? And you want to go bigger on 3rd and 2? Do you want two edges on the field? No, I don't think so. So maybe this is your 3rd and 4 or less guy. This is a guy that's going to give it his all. Seems very similar to the Tony Fair situation. Yeah, and I think it's important that we clarify now that it's a situation that's similar to Tony Fair, not necessarily the type player that we're getting here. Left end is a 7 technique that lines up where you said. The edge would be a traditional play at 9, which will be outside the tight end shoulder. Yeah, so like, but he's going to play the opposite of that. I don't think he's going to play inside of it. So, I mean, how many true defensive ends are on this roster right now? You know, Skeevius Walker, guy we don't talk about enough, by the way. I think he's gonna be really good this year. So I like this. Any other questions before we wrap this up? And this will be in podcast form in about 20 minutes as well, in case you guys want to listen to it on the way to work tomorrow or anything like that. Any other questions before we wrap this thing up? This has been fun. I always say I'm going to go live more, and then I don't. So that's on me. That's on me. Cool. I love that no matter what we're talking about, if it's an Auburn group of Auburn fans, there's a debate about the quarterback battle. I love it. I love it so much. Eli asking, Ike Hilliard, future OC. If that's what he wants, yeah, I think so. I think so. He's great at developing and getting guys open consistently. I don't know where he is as far as the scheme and the play calling and play design. I don't know. But typically, you know, successful wide receiver coaches, they then jump to quarterback coach somewhere else, and then they go to offensive coordinator. With him having NFL experience, maybe that makes that path a little bit different. But I think if that's something he wants to do, absolutely. He's really well respected. And if he's able to also recruit, that's just going to help more and more. I think it's too early to tell if he's able to recruit or not. The Dzalen Warsham was his first win, so that's exciting. Yeah, Stuart, I talked about this a second ago. It was announced earlier that All-American linebacker from James Madison, Tucker Dorsey, entered the portal. He just tweeted that he received an offer from Auburn. So, Stuart, earlier I was talking about, I was halfway through, I was writing a story on him at auburndaily.com. This will come out tomorrow now because it's getting a little late. But this was, I was halfway through writing the story, and then Morris Joseph tweeted out that he was committed to Auburn. It's like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing that right now, which is fine. Is this a real cactus? No, it's not. It's not a real cactus. What do I think about Calzada? Right now, I think he's the favorite to start. I don't think that's too hot of a take. AJ, we're not talking about the Patriots right now. You know, I want to, but it's not good for business for me to do that. Record prediction. I'm not getting into that tonight, guys. I'm not getting into that. I don't want y'all mad at me. All right. Any other Auburn related questions except for record prediction before we wrap up? Antonio, thank you so much for the kind words. Love your show, Zach. Keep doing what you do, my brother. Man, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I'm liking what we're doing right now. Okay. That's fine. If y'all want to ask questions, I'll answer them, but I just don't want to get into the schedule and things like that. Six and 6. Charlie 5. Y'all talking about Charlie 5. Hey, underrated. What's going on, man? What's going on? Thank you, Paul. All of you saying nice things about the show. I really appreciate it. Anybody have any more questions, thoughts on a player or anything like that before we wrap up? Met Thanos at A-Day. Yeah, he's huge. Guy's a freak. He's in size. Like, it's awesome. I hate he was so limited in spring. I would have liked to have seen more of him. Eli says we're going to be between 0 and 12 and 12 and 0. That is true. That is absolutely true. Do you think we land another wide receiver? Yes. Yeah, I do. I think you have to. I think they want it to be somebody that has more experience somewhere else. They can bring that in. I don't think they want another DeZalen Worsham type situation where it's like they've been in college for 2 years and they just haven't recorded a stat. I think they want somebody that can really help lead this room, this wide receiver room. So, yeah, I think so. When we have more questions come in, guys, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers before the season, so would really, really help a lot. AJ, which upcoming Marvel film are you looking forward to the most? Man, I haven't watched the last few. I wanted to watch the new Spider-Man one, then I just got around to it. I was supposed to watch the Doctor Strange movie with Charlie 5, then he canceled on me, and then I canceled on him. So, I don't know. I'm way behind. Which freshman will impact us the most? That is a great question, Stark. I think Jay Fair is going to be really good. Now, I don't know how good he'll be day one, but it seems like there's a handful of receivers that are practicing on their own in the complex every day. Sounds like there's 3 of them, and Jay Fair is one of those 3. That's telling. The coaching staff tracks that stuff. I just feel like that's going to be rewarded. I think it's going to pay off. And I think he's catching balls from Calzada. So my answer to that is Jay Fair. That's a great question. Russell, I'm not growing the stash back. I don't know. I'm actually getting a haircut later this week. It's gotten ridiculous. How's the O-line going to be? I think it's going to be about like last year. It's really going to come down to the tackles, right? I think you feel good about the center play. I mean, Nick Brahms is okay. I think Nick Brahms is Nick Brahms. You know what you're going to get from him. The offensive guards are going to be okay. Keandre Jones is really good. Brandon Council's really good. It's the tackles. I think since you lose Broham, that may help you in pass protection, possibly. Then every time I go back and look at it, it's like Broderius Ham's numbers were better than I thought they were. So maybe I'm too hard on the guy. I'm really high on Killian Zaire, and it sounds like he won that left tackle job in spring. So hopefully that is hopefully that helps. Hopefully that's a jump in the right direction there. Freshman not on campus yet that you're most excited about? Most of them are on campus, though, so that's kind of tough. I'll say Camden Brown. I'll stick with receivers. I don't think it's really hard to play as a freshman where you missed your first spring. So, but I think in 2023, 2024, I think he could totally be a guy that steps up. Absolutely. That's a good question too, Jamie. So don't dismiss the wide receivers we have. I believe it's going to be Calzada starter for deep passes, and Robbie is a different style with quick inside passes. Yeah, but I mean, you can't like rotate him in and out. Is that what you're saying, Lee? Like that we're gonna see two quarterbacks? Because I don't think that'll happen. Camden Brown. Yep. Y'all are all agreeing on Camden Brown. Big body wide receiver for the future. No question. There's no question about it. So, and that's kind of where Auburn has questions at the receiver, right? Is your outside guys. I like the upside of the slot, Javarius Johnson, Jay Fair was a big slot guy in high school. And so like, I think you feel good about that. Even if you want to play, with tight ends there, I think that situation's great. It's about your outside wide receivers. So what is Robert Woodyard like? He's the guy that we flipped from Bama. And so it's just linebacker. And it's like linebacker's fine right now, but they're trying to add linebackers left and right. So I don't know if that's just they need more bodies. They feel like they need more bodies or what. I'm not sure, but I haven't heard much about him. I don't think he was on campus in the spring, right? If he was, I just didn't hear anything about him. Not too many games. It will depend how the other team adjusts. Okay. Your thoughts on J.J. Evans, the wide receiver? I don't think he'll play a big role. Once again, like with these guys, it's like, what is the path to playing time look like? And J.J. Evans' path to playing time was winning time in the spring, and we just didn't hear much of him. So, can Auburn play two quarterbacks? No, absolutely not. That would be something that Brian Harsin has never done in his career. I love you too, Stark. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. I'll try to go live more. Kicking game is important and rarely talked about. Okay, so funny stuff about the kicking game. So my real job is I manage all of the Locked On College shows. Like that is my real full-time job. And then I do this show as, another job. And a lot of folks talk about kicking a ton. And I was thinking like, why don't I talk about kicking more? And then I realized they're all talking about kicking like as if they dread it, like they don't know what the answer is. But I don't think we realize how fortunate we've been for the last 2 decades, essentially. We've known who our kicker was going into the season, and they've been really reliable. So I agree. The kicking game is important, but it's like it's taken care of. It's like we got Anders for one more season. And then, we've got probably somebody that's actually better behind him. So I think we're going to be okay there. What have I heard on Anders? Seems like recovery is normal. He was kicking off of a tee in spring, which seems ahead of schedule to me. I'm no doctor, but that seems quick. So I think that's good. All right, let's do 2 more questions, guys. And then I gotta wrap up. AJ. Yeah, Cody Parkey was very good. All right, guys. Cool. Thank y'all for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Like the video. Goes a long way. Takes you 2 seconds, and it really means a lot to the channel. Please click subscribe and click that bell so you're notified when we go live in the future, because these always do well. So I should do them more often. Does Cam Riley move to edge if we land the linebacker from James Madison? I don't think we're going to land the linebacker from James Madison. So, no. All right, last question. Eli got it in. Let's see. Do you think the kid from Fort Payne can start over Carlson this year? No, I don't. I don't think that's the plan. I think the plan's to give Carlson as much love as he can. He's got 1 year of eligibility left, and so let's send him off into the sunset that way. Guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm going to put the part about Morris Joseph in podcast form, so that'll go up in the morning. Thank you guys so much, and I will talk to y'all later. This has been Locked On Auburn.